Hi, welcome to the Aruba OS 8.3 how-to video series. This is the third video in a 15-part video series that's going to cover the Mobility Master licensing process. Now what I'm going to do for this demo is I'm basically going to walk through from a customer perspective what you would see from the very beginning to the very end when it comes to licensing your Mobility Master. Now if we look at the topology of our sample deployment here, what you're going to find are two mobility masters in DC1 that are going to share a VRRP address. This will be the primary, this will be the backup, and then I'm going to have a third mobility master in DC2 that is going to kind of be the backup for DC1. But all of my licenses for the entire deployment are going to be installed on Mobility Master 1. From there, any other device that is pointed to this Mobility Master will pull their licenses from there. So I don't need to individually install licenses on all of these virtual controllers or on these other Mobility Masters. All I'm really doing is installing the licenses on the primary Mobility Master, and then as these other devices connect to it, they will pull licenses as needed. So the first thing that a customer will get after a purchase is essentially a software delivery receipt. So it's an electronic software receipt that has both the content of your order, which has the number and type of licenses that are a part of the order. It also has an HPE order number, and this HPE order number down here is the most important part of this order, besides the fact that you want to check and make sure that all these things look correct. And so from this kind of sample order that we see here, you see that I've got one MMVA 50 license. That licenses one Mobility Master up to 50 devices. I have one MCVA 50 license, which allows me to terminate up to 50 access points on any number of virtual controllers that I deploy underneath this MM. And then I've got 50 AP licenses, 50 Policy Enforcement Firewall licenses, 50 RF Protect, 50 licensed VIA sessions, and then I have 50 licenses for web content classification, and then 50 sessions of advanced cryptography. This would be for things like Suite B. So not that you need every single one of these licenses for any one of your order, but I did want to go ahead and just include every single license type that we have to be activated on the controller. But your deployment could have just the MMVA 50 because you've got hardware controllers and you don't plan on doing any virtual. Or it could be that you only have AP and Policy Enforcement Firewall because you don't use RF Protect via WebCC or don't need any Suite B advanced crypto stuff. But this is what this looks like. So I'm going to copy this because I'm going to need it here in a second. And so when I come over to the My Networking portal, any user, any customer can create an account in My Networking portal, and most of you that have been an Aruba customer that had to undergo the license migration from our old Aruba site to the HPE site, this page will look extremely familiar. But for those that it's new to, you will create an account, and then once you log in, this is essentially the screen that you see. And from here, this is where I will go to register licenses, but anything that I've already activated or any orders that I've made that are tied to this account will show up in this list as well. I can also come into the My Networking portal to do things like transfer licenses from one controller to another for an RMA. I can also click on the software updates page to take me to find the latest software for the devices that I have. But for the demo in this video, I'm going to go ahead and register this license. And so it's going to ask for this order number or a registration ID or the certificate ID. Now, certificate IDs are typically generated for eval or demo licenses, but order numbers or registration IDs are tied to a sales order. So I'm going to paste this in and hit next. And what it's going to show me is it's asking for the email address that is assigned to this order. So you'll note it tells me here this is the email that it was sent to, this is the person that it's registered to, and so this is kind of a check to make sure that the right person that has knowledge of this receipt is activating licenses correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my email address and hit next. And then what it's going to show me is all of the items that are a part of this deployment. Now, because this is a Mobility Master, there's a little bit of it's not exactly clear, but there's a little bit of an order of operations that needs to be undertaken, in that we need to activate our Mobility Master license first before we activate anything else, because this helps the system on the back end track how these devices are going to be tracked. So I'm just going to activate my Mobility Master license first, and then I'm going to hit next. and it's going to ask for the license passphrase of the controller. Now there's two places that I can get this from. I can log in. I can go to SSH admin @ and go to the IP address of that mobility master. That's not the right IP though. I need to go to 200.51. And then I can do a show license passphrase, and it's this kind of random alphanumeric string of letters and numbers that is generated when this system is first stood up. If this were a hardware-based controller, it would be a serial number, but because it's virtual, we actually generate a random passphrase, and then we use that passphrase to activate the license. So if I come back to the GUI, let's say I don't like the command line, but I want to get the passphrase for the license, I go to Mobility Master, and then from here I go to System, Licensing, and then where you add your Mobility Master licenses, there's a little blue plus sign. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give me the license passphrase here. So I can copy it from here, I can copy it from the command line. Either place is going to give the same value. So I come over here, I'm activating a virtual mobility master license. It's going to ask for the passphrase, which I'll paste in and hit next. And then from here, there we go. There's a little bit of tedious clicking around. I accept all the terms, you can read it and hit finish. And this is going to generate a license that I'm going to install on the controller. So I'm going to do a few of these one at a time so I can show you both ways that licenses get activated. Now you'll get an email that gives you this license activation. This will also be in your My Networking Portal account, so you can always go back and get it so you don't have to worry about losing it. But what I'll do is I'll just paste in this license here. Now you can paste in multiple licenses. You don't have to just do one at a time, but for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to. So this is my first license. I'm going to hit OK, and you can see that the MM50 license, the permanent license, is now activated on the MM. So what I'll do now is I'll go to register more for this order, or actually I can say register more for this. Let's do it both ways. So I'll do register more for this order. This is going to go back to that HPE order that we initially started with. So you can see now that I've activated my MMVA50 and it shows that there are none left. I'm going to go ahead and activate this guy. This is my MCVA50 that allows me to put APs on a virtual controller, and hit next. Same process as before, the virtual mobility controller, or the virtual mobility master. I need to get this passphrase, which I'll just copy from here, and I'll paste this guy in. And then once it's read that and does its check, I'll hit next, I'll accept the terms, and I'll generate a new key, and I'll hit finish. Now, we haven't done a tour of the MM yet in terms of how it's structured, but I do want to go ahead and show you this one little thing. So this is the MCVA50 license. Now, I can do, the general command is license add here, but you'll see that it added at the my node, which is totally fine. The other place you can add it if you do a show config node hierarchy, you'll see that there is this /mm. So you would just cd to mm, and then you can also add licenses from here. You can see that's already installed. But generally speaking, most of the changes that are applied to the MM at the global level typically get done at this /mm level. The /mm/my node is the actual mobility master itself. So we'll do two more activations. We'll do the same thing for this order one more time. Now, when it comes back to this page, I didn't generate the error, but note that you can only do up to 6 licenses for the same controller at the same time. Additionally, if I have a flex license that has a bunch of access points, let's say, for example, I'm a large enterprise and I'm going to deploy multiple instances of a WLAN deployment, and let's say I purchase 10,000 flex licenses for APs, but I'm only going to activate 5 sites of 2,000 each. I can take a small subset of these AP licenses and activate them. I don't have to do all 50 at once. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do all 50. And I'm going to say next. I'm putting this on a virtual mobility master. I'm going to grab this passphrase again. So you'll note there's a lot of kind of cutting and pasting when we're doing this the hard way. I'm going to go ahead and hit next and accept the terms. And then when I finish, there's going to be 3 licenses that are generated at the bottom here that I'm just going to paste into a notepad. And so, or actually, let's do it this way. Actually, I'll just cut and paste them and put them in the license page. So let me go here. We'll do multiple lines. There we go. So first license is here. So I'm going to copy this and paste this in the window. Then I'll hit enter to create a new line. I'm going to grab this license and copy it, and I'm going to paste it over here and create a new line. And then I'll grab that last license over here and I'll paste it in and hit OK. You can see I want to go ahead and enable the policy enforcement and RFP license and hit OK. And then I need to write that change in because I enabled those licenses. And so if I were to look at the Mobility Master licenses, you can see that they're all active, and I have my AP, PEF, RFP, MIMC, and MM. So I have 3 more licenses that I need to actually install. So we'll do the last bit where we're going to activate the last 3 specific to this controller. So it shouldn't ask me for the license passphrase again. It should just ask me for the 3 licenses that I can activate. So you can see everything is zeroed out except these last 3. So I'm going to go ahead and take these last 3 and do a quantity of 50 for all of them. Hit next. It shouldn't ask me for the passphrase because it's already got it up here. You can see that passphrase is copied up already. So obviously, if I'm going to activate a lot of licenses for the same device, I want to go ahead and do it this way. It's just much faster. It already accepted the terms because I've already done it once. So now I can take these guys over here. So we'll do it from the command line. I'll go ahead and do a license add, paste that in. So you can see the VIA is now added. I'll take this guy here and do a license add. And you can see that this can't be installed because the clock is not set correctly. That's on me. And then I will take this guy. The reason why that one shows that error is because that is a subscription-based license, and so it needs a valid date. Which these guys, if I do a show clock, they have the wrong time. I need to fix their time before that goes in. But in essence, if I come back to the GUI and I look at my license usage and I open everything up, you can see I've got my ACR and WebCC. I hit submit, hit pending changes, and go ahead and enable them. And so when I look at all of my licenses in the license pool, you can see that I've got 50 AP license, 50 PEF, 50 of everything across the board except the WebCC because that didn't activate yet because of the time. Now the other thing that we can do, and we'll demonstrate this a little bit better when it comes to setting up the managed devices under the MM. But I can also, when I add devices, I can create license pools. And so as we add devices on here, we'll have more options underneath this global license setting to maybe be able to say, you know what, I want to give 10 APs worth of license to one group. I want to give 10 AP of license to another. But in essence, that's how you activate your licenses. If you have any controller-specific licenses, those would get added here, but we don't have any controllers, so there's nothing to show. But for everything else, you can see everything's already activated. The license keys are in there, everything's permanent, and everything's good to go. So if you have any questions on licensing your MM or have any questions about what to do within the My Networking portal, certainly reach out to some of the online resources like community.arubanetworks.com or reach out to your local Aruba SE or local Aruba partner. Thank you.